People pleasing is one of the most challenging saboteurs to overcome because it is praised in society as a standard for good character. People pleasers are covertly and overtly encouraged to neglect their own needs because we think that by giving ourselves less, it means that there is more for others. My name is Nikki, and I am a U.S. Marine turned resilience coach. I'm on a mission to empower people pleasers and empaths everywhere to stop playing small and to start taking aligned action. In today's video, we're going to be cracking this problem wide open, and we're going to identify the 5 major people pleasing behaviors and the beliefs that perpetuate those behaviors. And then later, I'm going to offer some practical steps to help you establish those healthy boundaries that are going to free you up to inspire other people with your talents and with your strengths. By the end of this video, you'll be able to identify which people-pleasing behaviors are draining your energy the most and how you can harness your empathy for the good of everybody, including yourself. At some point, we internalize this notion that good people serve others tirelessly. And good people think of other people first. Good people forego comfort in order to provide for those that they love. Their happiness is our happiness. These are all major themes of the people-pleasing complex, and they're often accompanied by a degree of unresolved codependence. And for anyone who isn't sure what I mean by codependence, here's the definition. Behavior number 1, you don't want to be the first to give your opinion. We love to listen to others, and we often even tailor our feedback to match the consensus that is in the room. We do this to cultivate harmony, but if it's left unchecked, it starts to manifest as a lack of confidence, and it's a lack of identity. We don't want to be the ones to make things feel tense in the room, so we prefer to just sit with the tension that comes from not speaking up. Big takeaway. These tensions are equally destructive. Another belief that perpetuates this behavior is, what if everyone disagrees with me? We have an association with disagreement and feeling unsafe. While it's really nice to be surrounded by people who share your values and your outlook on life, you can't manufacture a sense of belonging by just giving zero voice to the topics that we think might upset other people. That's not true belonging. Another belief that goes into this behavior is, I know less than everyone else here. We're often the most informed people in the room because we pay really close attention and we consider ideas from various perspectives. So we're honestly some of the most fair-minded people in the room, but we assume that our feeling of uncertainty is an indication that we should stay quiet. We don't consider for a moment that the nature of our confusion is coming from being so conscientious of all the different ways that that decision is going to impact people in the room and impact their families, impact the society as a whole. We tend to go really, really far down the rabbit hole and think about all of the consequences and all the possible consequences that could come along after that fact. So really, we're master overthinkers. That's really what I'm getting at. We're really good at it. Behavior number 2, you put the needs of others ahead of your own needs. So the first belief that comes to mind when I think about this behavior is the one where it's like, I must be helpful in order to be valuable to other people. Your desire to serve others is all the evidence you need to prove that you are valuable. I'm sorry you were not told this often enough when you were younger, but you have a level of value that is indisputable and incorruptible. There is no need for others to validate your good intentions. The fact that you have good intentions isn't indication enough what kind of person you are. The way that you feel about yourself is a far more potent currency than whatever you might get from the fickle minds of the world and what they might think about you or the current events right now. You have to live in your mind. So make sure that it's a place that you enjoy being in every day. The second belief that supports this behavior is the one that says, I can handle more, so I should do more. Once you make serving other people your entire identity, you make a habit of overextending yourself as a gesture of your love and your affection. And as beautiful as that inner drive is to serve other people, You don't owe your energy and your attention to everyone. Because as you well know, there's going to be times when you get taken advantage of by people who are not wired like you and me. And it's not our job to choose the well-being of everybody. That is their job. And it's your job to choose your own well-being as a priority, because it's not until your well-being is intact that you are really in a position to really give to other people in a way that's going to help them the most, right? The quality of our giving is completely different when we are giving from a place of empowerment and fulfillment instead of a place of obligation and need. This one hits home. The third belief that supports this behavior is a sore spot for me because it is so relevant, and I'm sure a lot of you might feel the same kind of impact from this one. It's the belief that says, I take care of other people because I know what it's like to not have my own needs met. Ooh, that one stings a little bit. We are intimately familiar with the ache of that, having a need that wasn't met. Even if you don't remember it, your body remembers it. Memory is not just something that is stored in our brains. It's now been proven that your body stores emotional memory and information. So the longer that emotion goes unprocessed, the more likely it is to show up as an illness, as a soreness in the body. I really could go down a rabbit hole with this one. Let me get back on track. Here's what's going on there. We are attempting to resolve our own trauma and our own unmet needs through providing care for others. So once you make serving people your whole identity, like I said before, you're going to keep overextending yourself as that gesture of love and affection. Behavior number 3, you avoid conflict and confrontation. The first primary belief that upholds this behavior is the belief that conflict creates more problems than it solves. So this could have been modeled in the way that our caregivers resolved conflict when we were growing up. Many of us did not see healthy examples of conflict resolution or disagreeing in a calm and constructive way. Even if you did witness good behavior, it doesn't remove the fear that you have from upsetting other people. And often that fear is just enough to keep us stuck in that pattern of staying quiet as a way to cope. So even though we may not have seen that behavior played out in a good way, doesn't mean that it's not a responsibility to learn how to do that ourselves, because we are adults now. And even though we have a childlike wound, it doesn't mean we have to stay there. And just keep in mind that your conflict phobia is actually going to create more miscommunication than it's going to prevent. Staying quiet doesn't prevent miscommunication. It just leaves greater voids for people to fill in what they think is going on. Belief number 2 is by keeping everybody happy, it is the best way to prevent problems. So we're really good at anticipating needs. And because of that, we prevent problems really well, because the stress that comes about when we have to react feels overwhelming. So the problem is that because we are so wired to behave the way we do, we unconsciously keep looking for problems to solve. So pretty soon, problems are the only things that we notice around us, because that's all we're really looking for when we're scanning situations, scanning a room, caught in some kind of social interaction. We're looking for those problems in order to prevent them. It distorts our view on things, and it actually kind of removes us from engaging and connecting with the people around us. The third belief is I am afraid of showing the intensity of my feelings. So as people pleasers, we have a crazy high EQ, but instead of using that intelligence to help other people grow, we often fall into that thinking pattern that strong feelings are irresponsible, they're inappropriate, or they're even dangerous or bad. There is so much to unravel here, but this is the primary takeaway I want you to remember. Emotions are messengers. Big emotions do not mean that you are unstable. It means that the message has been ignored too long, and it's starting to yell in order to get your attention. Oftentimes, we're not just processing our own emotions, we're also trying to navigate the emotions of other people in the room. And that is especially challenging to do when the people in question deny that that's their emotion flat out. We can pick up on it and then they insist it's not happening. And it makes us wonder if we're imagining things. So we're already prone to second guessing ourselves, and we'll often use opportunities like this for evidence that we are seeing things that are not really there. And it perpetuates this lack of belief in ourselves and lack of belief in our own judgment. Behavior number 4, I would rather suffer in silence than ask for help. So speaking from a personal experience with this particular belief, mine showed up as, if I can't do this myself, it doesn't count. And I took this one out of my own book because I remember the day that I recognized like the quality of that thought, and I realized what it was implying, and it didn't even make any sense. So what does it mean doesn't count? Who's keeping score? What is the game? How do you become a winner? It was just this vague and faulty belief and standard that I had made for myself. So for you, it might show up as, why does doing things on my own render it a higher quality work than if I were to get help doing it? Effort is beautiful. Everybody loves to be in a relationship where there is effort being given back and forth. But remember that overextension is not just bigger effort. Overextension is an unchecked striving, and its nature is one of anxiety and fear. So it's not really helpful. Another belief that supports this behavior is, I don't want to burden anybody with my problems. Why are we assuming that by asking for help, it is placing a burden on the other person? So I want you to picture this. If you had a friend come to you and say, I really need your help with something, would your first thought to that person's question be, why are they burdening me with their problems? Probably not. We're probably more than happy to help our friend with whatever it is that they need. So it's interesting that we would assume that when the role is reversed and we are the one asking for help, that is how the ask is going to be perceived, even though there is no evidence that we know of personally that really verifies that theory. It's faulty thinking, really. And it does come from a place of fear, of thinking that your needs are too great. Like your needs are just outrageous. They're not outrageous. By not asking for help, we don't really give our loved ones an opportunity to support us in the same way. So if you don't have a supportive group, go find someone. Join a book club or join a gym, join a positive mindset Facebook group. There are so many options available. No excuses. There is some kind of a group out there that sees eye to eye with what you're doing. And I promise, as soon as you become vocal and as soon as you start embracing your values and letting those shine through, you're going to attract the people that feel the same way as you. Belief number 2, I must suffer in order to toughen up. Here's the thing. Adversity is a big part of life. But adversity doesn't imply that we have to suffer through the process. So I'm going to upset some people right now when I say this, but stick with me. Suffering is often an unconscious choice that we make when we place greater value on past events than we place on what is taking place right now. One statement that my own coach gave me that was really helpful, that I repeated often through our sessions, was, that was then, this is now. This situation is different. The people are different. I am different. I may not have had a choice back then, but I do have a choice now, and I'm going to exercise that power and make a mindful decision, one that is aligned with my goals, one that is going to improve conditions in not only my life, but in the lives of those that are around me as well. And also with the lives of people that I haven't yet connected with. That's the one that excites me the most. Belief number 3 is that strong people handle things on their own. Let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a strong structure that had no joints, no supports, no fastening, nothing, no other structures around it? No, because strength comes from unified elements that are cohesive in their function. So in other words, they are all in agreement with each other. So you need to find others who are already in agreement with your goals and your vision and start surrounding yourself with those people. It goes back to what I was saying before. If you don't feel like you have people in your life that are supporting your ambitions or lifting you up or being an encouragement, find those people who will, because that is a form of energy that you are deficient in. And it's no wonder you're struggling to meet the smallest of goals. You don't really have that support being poured back into you from other people. No man is an island. I know it's not an original statement, but seriously, no man is an island. No woman is an island. We need to be supported and surrounded by people who get what we're doing. I promise it makes a difference. All right, home stretch, guys. My fifth and final behavior is you often assume a supportive role over a leadership role. So the first belief that really upholds this behavior is I don't trust my own judgment. So I have to wait for others to make decisions. And this is really an extension of our tendency to look at things from so many perspectives. We get data plots of like, oh, well, this is like the average of what people are telling me. This is probably the thing I need to do. We don't actually need to do all of that. That is a behavior of someone who doesn't trust that their gut and their mind, whatever you feel like decisions come from, mine is gut. But when we make these decisions, if you don't trust in it, of course, you're going to feel like you need input from other people to make sure it's sound. So here's my challenge to you. If you make a habit of checking in with yourself, you're going to notice that your gut is constantly telling you what to do. So don't pass any judgment on that instinct when you get a gut feeling. Listen to it. Repeat after me. My judgment can be trusted because I have others' best interests at heart. You know that you're a big softie, so why are you really worried that you're suddenly going to become a monster in your decision making when you have a leadership role, or you're suddenly going to lose your mind and not know what's right or not right? It's worst case scenario thinking. The second one ties into that pretty closely, and that is, who am I to lead? We often consider leaders as being these really calculating, really wise people that have all the answers. And here's the honest truth. The best leaders that I ever had when I was in the Marine Corps were the ones that made completely independent decisions and demanded obedience, from their subordinates. The best leaders were the ones that had the well-being of their Marines in mind with every single decision that they made. For those of you who are familiar with Simon Sinek, he came up with the notion, well, he didn't come up with the notion leaders eat last, but he pretty much he made it popular. So this concept of leaders eat last is a cornerstone of Marine Corps leadership. And it's this idea that the most junior Marines, those who are lowest on the totem pole, lowest on the ladder, are the very first to get sustenance, to get rest, to get care. So they are prioritized within the group as being taken care of, theoretically. So when you extend that circle all the way out to the lowest ranking person, as you go up, the trust starts from the bottom, and it is earned at each point it goes up because everyone has someone else looking out for the person that is below them. That is the philosophy behind leadership. Leadership is not a title on a resume. Leadership is not an acronym that comes before your name when you have a placard outside your door. Leadership is a devotion. Leadership is an active decision you make to take charge of the care of those that are around you. It is just a decision that you are going to support the people that are around you and give them what they need, as long as it's within your capacity and within your power, right? So I want you to think about that and what it means in terms of leadership and care. The best leaders ask questions when they get feedback from those who would be impacted by the decision that they're making. And you have a ton of practice ignoring your own needs. So you've already got that last step down. Like, you got that in the bag. The one step that you really need to work on is developing as a leader by trusting in yourself and trusting that your experience is enough. And if you think you don't have enough experience, then take a course or find a mentor. But remember that you will never feel like you have enough information. No one ever does, by the way. No one ever has all the information. And the best leaders are people who surround themselves with others who are better at those details than they are. You don't need to know everything. You just need a really excellent team. So really, we are positioned to be some of the most effective leaders because of our emotional intelligence. We know how to have conversations with people. We know how to find out what motivates that person. Imagine having a boss who, instead of telling you what you're going to get as your bonus that year, sat down with you and said, what would motivate you to do more? What is it that you want more of? Is it money? Is it paid vacation time? Is it, continuing education? What is your priority? And then for that person to give that to you, knowing that intrinsic motivation is what's going to turn you on to do your very, very best. And that's how cohesive teams are made. So really, you are an absolute powerhouse when it comes to potential for leadership. We just don't think we are. All right, the next belief is, I don't like being in the spotlight, even when it's for a good reason. I still struggle with this one. I am a little awkward when people give me compliments or give me praise. I would typically rather dismiss or reduce their compliment as though that's polite, but it's actually quite rude. It's quite rude. And after I practiced receiving compliments with a simple thank you in response, I did notice that getting praise and acknowledgement for my accomplishments actually felt really good. I liked how that felt, but I had just convinced myself I couldn't enjoy that if I was truly a humble person. I lied to myself out of a mistaken idea that it was a virtue to constantly belittle myself. You are not full of yourself for seeing all of the ways that you are talented and competent. If you are good at something, admit to others that you're good at it. That's not bragging. It's just a statement. And practice saying it without apologizing. In fact, just try not apologizing as much, because we know that you do it a lot, right? The truth is you're not going to do anybody any favors by concealing your skills and your talents to avoid standing out. Sometimes standing out is the exact position that you need to take. And don't subscribe to that slimy voice in your head that's telling you, oh, you're just secretly full of yourself and you're doing all this for selfish reasons and you need attention. You're not. You care about people. Your problem is that you forget that you also count as people. Affirmations are great. I have always said, though, that affirmations are more like multivitamins than they are like food. You cannot rely on a multivitamin alone to give you what you need to stay healthy. The same is true for affirmations. Adding them in as a supplement when you're, really trying to focus on developing a certain skill, or you're trying to, solidify a new good habit, or you're trying to ditch an old bad habit. Affirmations are really helpful, but they by no means substitute the mindfulness practices that people need in order to really self-reflect and get honest and truthful about what's in there. Okay, so here's a list of really great affirmations that you can use for overcoming people pleasing when you find yourself in a position where you are overextending yourself. You are really tempted to say yes to something that you don't want to say yes to. You find yourself biting your tongue and not expressing a really strong emotion or a boundary that's been crossed. You would rather be the one to suffer than to inconvenience others with telling them how you feel. Be aware of those things. Okay. Those are all opportunities for you to practice these affirmations that I'm about to give you. Affirmation number 1, I am both kind and wise. People trust me because I am worthy of trust. I am safe to disagree and speak my mind plainly. My judgment can be trusted because I have others' best interests at heart. By allowing myself to receive help and appreciation and support from others, I have more energy available to support the ones I love. My limits are appropriate and my boundaries are reasonable. How does the people-pleasing tendencies show up in your life? I would love to hear from you in the comments section. And if you got anything out of this video, please hit the subscribe button and the little bell notification so that you can find out the next time I get on here and talk about something that's going to be relevant for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Often we're so afraid that what is in us is just going to like scare the hell out of us. And why do I want to look there? But I promise you that that shadow in the corner is not as imposing as it insists. It's kind of using the darkness to inflate its size. And you have to shine a light on it. You have to become aware of it in order to expose it for what it is. And I promise it's not as scary as you think it is.